Hey everybody, Dr. Chris here. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me for session number 4 of our series on hormones and weight regulation. So just to recap, session number 1, we did an overview. We talked about ghrelin, hormone that increases your hunger. Session number 2, we talked about hormones that come from the intestines. Session number 3, last session, we talked about the pancreas and hormones from the pancreas, specifically insulin. And then today, we're going to talk about fat cells, okay? So I think there's this misconception out there that fat cells just sit there. They don't do anything. They maybe give you a little padding, give you some insulation, but they are incredibly hormonally active. They send out all sorts of signals, okay? And today we're going to talk about 3 specific signals, all right? And we'll do a little wrap up at the end, and hopefully you'll learn something. You can put something into practice to help regulate these hormones for your benefit. All right, so the first thing is, it's an umbrella term. It's called inflammatory cytokines. Okay, what's an inflammatory cytokine? There's a whole bunch of different signals. Names don't matter. TNF alpha, interleukin 6. But what they do is they increase inflammation. All right, so every little fat cell that you have spits out these signals that increase inflammation. That's the high point for this first section on inflammatory cytokines. Fat cells increase inflammation. All right, so that's one reason that excess weight is associated with all sorts of chronic medical problems. Cancer from chronic inflammation, depression from chronic inflammation, pain from chronic inflammation, poor sleep from chronic inflammation, all sorts of these things that get worse because the fat cells increase inflammation. All right, so anything we can do to decrease how many fat cells you have, if you have excess fat cells, is going to help with inflammation. All right. So moving on to leptin. So leptin's kind of interesting in that it's almost the opposite of ghrelin. So if you haven't watched session number 1 yet, go back and check that out to learn about ghrelin. Leptin kind of balances that. All right, to compare and contrast the two, ghrelin is kind of a short-term signal. So your ghrelin level goes up when you're hungry, you eat, ghrelin level goes down. Okay, leptin is more of a long-term signal. So what's the energy stores like in your body? You have a meal, it's not going to affect it very much, but long-term, what is your energy balance? Okay, ghrelin makes you hungrier, leptin makes you fuller. All right, and I'll talk about where leptin works in the brain on different pathways, but leptin signals the pathways in one direction to promote being full and increase energy expenditure, and ghrelin works on the opposite. Same pathways, but opposite direction to increase weight. All right. So leptin comes from the fat cells, and it works its way up to your brain centrally here. And again, the names don't matter, but I'm going to mention the pathways. Leptin stimulates POMC. So POMC is pro-opiomelanocortin, and what that does is it promotes weight loss. Okay, so it increases energy expenditure. You want to move around more, and decreases appetite, so you want to eat less. Okay, and then at the same time, it inhibits weight gaining pathways. All right, so that's neuropeptide Y, a agouti-related peptide up in the brain here. And so not only does it increase weight loss promoting pathways, it blocks weight gaining promoting pathways. All right, so two good things that leptin does. And 2 situations or theories about how leptin works, or at least things that we see in practice for people who have extra weight. One is that they don't have enough leptin. They have a leptin deficiency. So if you don't have enough leptin, your brain's not getting that signal that, hey, I want to move around, so then you have less energy, or hey, I'm full, so you actually have an increased appetite. So that's leptin deficiency. The other situation is leptin resistance. So in that situation, your body is sending out leptin, your fat cells are sending out leptin, but your brain's just not responding. So in practice, the result's the same. You don't feel like moving around, and you're more hungry. Okay, so that's leptin. Moving on to the last section here, adiponectin. So adiponectin is kind of curious in that the more fat cells you have, the less adiponectin you have. Okay, and adiponectin is beneficial. All right, so as you lose fat cells, your adiponectin level starts going up, and that's good. Main reason is that it decreases inflammation. Okay, so adiponectin is anti-inflammatory. Okay, it also helps your body regulate sugar better, helps your insulin work better. All right, so what it does, it works in the liver with glucose and sugar metabolism, in the muscles working on glucose, sugar metabolism, and then also in your blood vessels to decrease inflammation. All right, so the higher your weight, the more fat you have, the less adiponectin you have. That also increases inflammation and negatively affects blood sugar control. All right, all that is related to weight gain. All right, so those are the 3 sections. To summarize this, the main take-home point is that fat cells, the more you have, the more inflammation you have, both because adipose cells increase inflammation by secreting these inflammatory signals called cytokines, and also because it's associated with less adiponectin, which is an anti-inflammatory. All right, so anything we can do to decrease how much adipose tissue you have is going to help you. Okay, you have less adipose tissue, you're going to have less inflammation by 2 of those mechanisms. All right, so that's great. You hear about these anti-inflammatory diets. Hey, don't eat dairy, or do eat this, or don't eat whatever. The fat cells that people are already carrying around are inflammatory. So let's start there. All right, let's decrease your fat cells by whatever nutrition exercise plan works for you, right? Talk with your healthcare person, your dietitian, give me a call, we'll figure it out. But to get rid of some of these fat cells so that you have less inflammation, because I'll tell you, if you have less inflammation, you're going to feel so much better, right? Your aches and pains are going to feel better, you're going to sleep better, your mood's going to be better, you're going to decrease your risk of having a bunch of chronic medical problems, and you're going to be in a better place, and you're going to thank yourself for doing that. All right, so thanks for listening. We got 1 more session left, and we're going to focus on the brain and weight regulation there. So again, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions. Talk to you next time. Dr. Chris. Be sure to schedule your free 30-minute initial phone consultation by sending me an email or by visiting our website at refinedwellnessconsulting.com.